accurately if we truly believe as Republicans in limited government because it's slipping away from us. Now, all this could be an academic discussion. We could debate it and have fun talking about it. That could be all it is. But it's more important than that now. Anybody in this room who's got a pension plan or 401k has suffered over the last 6 months. Here's the question, though. Is the suffering over? Have you lost half of your savings and you got the other half you can rely on? You've now put it in a CD and you think it's safe? We've printed up so much paper to cover this. The stimulus bill, we don't have that money. That's not real money. It's going to be printed by the Federal Reserve or borrowed. So all that money hits the marketplace within the next 6 months to a year. What if we get 20% inflation? Your money's gone in 5 years. What if we get 25%? Your money's gone in 4 years. What if we get 30% inflation? Your money's gone in 3 years. You can't keep a CD in 30% inflation and have a CD that's got a 5% note or a 5% interest rate or a 3%. Or, you're lucky to get 5%. You might get 1%. So we have to understand the problems and we have to have answers as Republicans. My reason for being involved in this is that I don't think Republicans have always been as steadfast as we need to be. We need to understand the situation, but we also have to have the guts to defend our situation, defend our philosophy, and not compromise away everything. And unfortunately, I think we gave up a lot of our credibility over the last 8 years, 6 to 8 years when we were in charge. And I can just say that, and Republicans can defend the party and just say, oh no, he's wrong. We don't want him because he's criticizing the party. Or you can, but if you do that, you'll see your party continue to shrink. We need to grow as a new party. We need to bring in some new people. And I think it's possible. I think there are great things ahead that will happen. But I also think it's a calamitous time. When the money was destroyed in Germany in the 1920s, that's when Hitler arose. And this isn't a scare tactic to say, oh, we're going to get Hitler. But if you have a time of crisis, that's when strong leaders sometimes come forward, and sometimes they're not the best of leaders. During the crisis of the American Revolution, we had great, well-thought, well-read leaders who gave us a republic. That's what you need in Washington again, and I hope you'll consider that as we go forward. And I want to thank you very much for inviting me. Well, over the last couple of weeks, I really wasn't planning on this, and my wife's still not too happy about this, is that I have thought about running for office for some time. I've been involved with the taxpayer group for 15 years and been involved with politics in Kentucky. And I hadn't planned on doing anything precipitously, but this comes out that they're pushing David Williams, who's the president of the Senate, to run. And it also came out very publicly that McConnell was the one pushing David Williams to run. And Bunning is our senator, and I've actually been happy with Bunning. Bunning is the one who actually had the courage to vote against the bank bailout. And I think what Senator McConnell and others in leadership don't understand is we won't ask for a raising of hands, but I'll bet you if we did here and across the Republican primary in Kentucky, I'll bet you 80% of them are with me and with Senator Bunning opposing the bank bailout and not necessarily with Senator McConnell. And he may not quite understand that, but if he tries to run somebody against McConnell in the primary, he's going to. I came forward basically saying that I don't want Senator Bunning at the very last minute to either try to pass it off to an aide by waiting till the deadline, and that's what happened in Ron Lewis's case over here. I think in the end left kind of a stain on Ron Lewis's legacy that he tried to shuffle it off without having an open election. We got Brett Guthrie, and I think Brett Guthrie is good, but that wasn't the way it started out to be over there. But I think what we need to have, and you can't just do it. I'm not well enough known to just run starting in October. Most people can't raise the money to do it. I think I can raise the money through the national constituency that I have met through my father's campaign. We have hundreds of thousands of donors who communicate with us online all the time. And I think I can raise several $1 million in a race and could run a credible race. But I would still need virtually a year to prepare for that and to become better known in Kentucky. And I don't plan on doing it if Senator Bunning runs, but I think I have to be positioned. I don't think there's someone to represent the conservative wing of the party. David Williams has recently capitulated on the budget and gone along with the governor to raise taxes. I think for being up there so long, he completely misses the message. The governor says we're $450 million short. Well, guess what? That's not true. If you look at last year's budget, we're 2% above last year's budget. Not a great deal. A lot of times we're 4%. But the reason they say we're short is because they wanted us to be at 4% above budget. So they project a budget for 2009 that's so many $billion, and we're $400 million short of their projections, but we're still several hundred million above what we spent last year. So they play games with the numbers. Bashir's gone after and after and after this, and some of the Republicans have brought this forward, but a lot of them just rolled over, and I think David Williams was one, and it wouldn't have passed if he had stood fast in the Senate. So I don't think that that's the kind of leadership we need in the U.S. Senate, and I think it's yet to be determined. I think there are some unknowns. Senator Budding says he's going to run. I'm hoping to meet with him the next month, but I think every day I see things that make me sometimes uncertain if he is. Any other questions?
Our free trade created an $800 billion deficit last year in trade, which relates to about 4 to 5 million jobs lost, 30 billion in Social Security taxes lost. Why do you feel like the trade deficit is not being addressed as far as an impact on the economy, and where would you stand on that?
I'm against most of the international trade agreements because what they do is they set up government bodies that have sovereignty over ours. We actually have some of these tariff organizations, NAFTA and CAFTA, and some of these agreements with Europe that actually tell us that our taxes are too low. I think that's ridiculous that we allow an international body to come in and say your taxes on your steel are too low, you need to raise your taxes. We need to have our own independence. So I would oppose most of the international trade agreements from that point of view. Now, whether I'm for free trade or for protectionism is a little more complicated. I think one way of raising revenue for a government is through some kind of low uniform tariff, and that's why we did raise money throughout a lot of our history. So I'm not opposed to that, some kind of low uniform tariff for funding the federal government.
It's all we've had for years.
And I'm not opposed to that. I don't think I want to get into the point of saying, well, let's put a 25% tariff on Toyotas. Right. So we do have some high tariffs, so you can't end up buying a GM car and you would rather have a Toyota, which a lot of them are made here now too, so they might get around that. But I think you bring up a good point. The reason it's not addressed and doesn't go anywhere is because the Republican Party is mostly for these trade agreements. My father's voted against all the trade agreements, NAFTA, CAFTA, and all those things, but not because he wouldn't vote sometimes to lower tariffs or to have a uniform tariff, but he doesn't like giving up sovereignty. The same way he doesn't think our soldiers should ever fight under a UN banner. We have to fight, we have to fight, and we fight under the U.S. flag. We don't fight under Anybody else?
I'm all for what you said your father was, because I don't think that's fair. And we need to fight under our own U.S. flag.
Right. It's a big enough debate determining what our own self-interests are without determining what the UN self-interest is. The UN is rife with all kinds of machinations and theft and graft, and we really, I agree with you. Thank you.